it's Lay, not her, not him, not them, not they. Just Lae. If you're here for the truth, you're in the right place. I'm going to say what I have to say, and we're going to go on about our day. Let's get into it. Alright, this is Shanika Grant on your screen. I call her Colossal Cat, but her real name is Shanika Grant. She's a mother of 10 from Sumter, South Carolina. Now, over here, we value transparency. You don't have to agree with every opinion I have, and I don't have to agree with every opinion you have. If I genuinely believe something, I'm going to stand on it. Even if I'm standing on that hill by myself, I never cared. When I first came across Shanika a few years ago, I viewed her through the lens of compassion, empathy, and understanding. I wanted to believe she was simply overwhelmed, struggling, doing everything in her power to be a mom and to raise the kids that she had at the time. Doing the best she could with what she had, like so many others. But after watching her for a few months, my perspective changed. I reached a point where I felt that my compassion was being misplaced. Instead of seeing someone who was simply struggling, I started seeing someone who, in my opinion, repeatedly made choices that harmed the people who depended on her most. That left me asking a question I've never really been able to answer. Does she understand the impact of her actions and simply not care? Or is there something else affecting her judgment that makes her genuinely unable to recognize the harm she's causing? Now, I don't know the answer, but that's the question that keeps coming back every single time I watch anything pertaining to Shanika Grant, aka Colossal Cat. Now, if you decide to stay and watch my video in its entirety, after you finish, I have a question. After everything you've seen, do you think Shanika is aware of how her kids have been treated? And do you think she understands that it's wrong? Or do you think she doesn't fully grasp the impact of her actions? Now, to be clear, I'm not trying to diagnose her or claim to know her mental health. I'm basing my opinion on what she's publicly said, the choices she's made, and the patterns I've observed over time. Those things have led me to question whether she fully understands the consequences of her actions. You may see it differently, and that's okay. Over here, we can disagree and still have a conversation. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. I give you the same respect you give me, and we can have an honest conversation without attacking one another.
Yeah, y'all, we in Columbia, South Carolina. Car, they going fast. There's a little bit drizzling going on. Back to school, gotta get that hair fixed. Alright, y'all, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm about to get my girls' hair done. This is before and after. Well, I just show a little clip of their hair. They about to get their braids done. We're gonna see what they look like when they get back. Just a short video, y'all heading to Columbia, which we already just landed in Columbia, South Carolina. Hi, Kaya.
Hi.
Alright, y'all, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina.
So this is why we're here today. A lot of people, including myself, were under the impression Colossal Cat was going to send her kids back to school with severely matted hair, aka her specialty. Her daughter Leah is 16 and she's about to enter high school. And based on what I've seen leading up to this, y'all, I genuinely believe there was a possibility. Thankfully, by the grace of God, that did not happen. happen. Now, yesterday, Colossal posted that she had dropped her daughters Leah and Kaya off to get their hair braided before school started, which is good. Like I said, every kid deserves to feel confident walking into a new school year. But here's the part that confused me. In that same post, Colossal also stated she had to work, which meant she couldn't pick them up once their appointments were over. Now, I don't know your ethnicity to the individual watching this video, but I'm a black woman, and we know when we get our hair braided and we get extensions, depending on what type of braids it is, it could take hours. So I'm gonna schedule my hair appointment on the day I don't have to work, especially when it's my kids. I don't think I will ever be that comfortable dropping my child off somewhere to get their hair done. I want to be right here. I'm trying to see what's going on. But not Colossal Cat. She dropped those girls off and took her happy ass to Domino's. And I'ma say it, from my perspective, that's an example of poor parenting. We've seen Colossal take off work to get her 2 scoops of hair done. So you mean you couldn't take off work to take your kids to get their hair braided, to sit up there with them? You just scheduled them on a day you knew you had to work. Like, make this shit make sense. And you can say, oh, but Lay, you just said one of those kids are 16. Yes, but they're not like the normal 16-year-old. You have to understand that when we're talking about Colossal kids, these are kids that she have kept cooped up in a haunted dungeon since the day that they were born. These are kids that don't know how to do basic things because she still hasn't taught them. And when I think about her kids, even I do think all kids are vulnerable, but her kids especially, they don't have, and I don't mean to be ugly, they don't have book sense or street sense. And I feel like that is the perfect, maybe that's the perfect scenario for someone who could approach them with ill intentions. And then, like their mother, they know their mother talks to anyone. Their mother goes up to meet anyone. And so let's just say a stranger approached them. Hey, your mom told me to come and get y'all. Y'all ready? They possibly have their phones with them, but their phones are off. So how can they confirm that with their mom? 9 times out of 10, they're just gonna get in the vehicle assuming mama told this person to come and get us, but it's not the truth. And I'm not wishing anything bad on those 2 girls, not any of those kids. But what I'm saying is, as a parent, it's dangerous to leave your kids anywhere unattended. I would have sat in that hair appointment. I would have asked questions. I would have talked to my girls. If I would have left, it would have been to use the restroom and to come back. But I would have been right up in there with my kids. And then in Colossal status, which I will attach for you all, she claimed that she reached out to their father. Now, Heyward Yarborough is who she says fathered those kids. And she asked him, could he pick their daughters up, you know, since they were getting their hair braided and they were in the city that he lives in with his wife. According to Shanika, he said he couldn't do it. Now, honestly, that wasn't surprising to me. Shanika has publicly identified Heyward as their father, and he has publicly acknowledged the kids. But in my opinion, acknowledging your kids isn't the same thing as consistently parenting them. And from everything I've observed over the years from watching Shanika, one thing about Heyward, y'all, he hasn't appeared to be a consistently involved, present father. Posting a picture every now and then of your kids on Facebook talking about you love them and you miss them, that doesn't, baby, that's not the same as being there. Those kids need you in real life, Heyward, not just on Facebook. But anyway, after he told Shanika he couldn't do it, she asked, could your wife pick the girls up instead? And apparently that didn't work out either. Now, I don't know why the wife wasn't able to help. It's kind of disappointing because if you were to go across her Facebook page, she portrays herself as so godly and such a Christian. And don't you think the Christian thing to do is to go get these kids that you know are in a completely different city because their mom is at work and they're stranded? but she couldn't do it. And I'm gonna say this will never be my situation, because first off, I don't mess with married men, and I know they say never, but never, and I say that with my entire chest. If I had a husband and he had kids and I knew they were stranded after a hair appointment because their mom was at work and I was available, I'd have a hard time saying no. But that's just my personal view. I know that we don't know their entire story. We're just going off of what we've seen throughout the years. But it doesn't seem like Heyward, the father, or Belinda, the wife, have ever truly been involved when it comes to the kids that Heyward share with Shanika Grant. And I want to say this. If you already know the father has a history of not showing up, why would you make a plan that depends on him showing up this time? As a parent, you have to plan around what's reliable, not around what you hope someone else will do. I know she wanted him for the first time to put on his dad hat and say, my baby's here in Colombia, in the same city I'm in, and they're stranded. Let me go get my daughters. But he didn't. He never does. And another thing that has stuck with me since I've watched Colossal is how few adults seem willing to be involved in her kids' lives. Not their father, not the father's wife, from what I've seen, not members of the father's family, and not members of Shanika's family. We're going to talk about that later, though. It seems that very few people seem willing to consistently step in. And I do worry about what that does to the kids, because kids don't always understand adult situations. They may grow up asking themselves, what was wrong with us? Why didn't anyone want us? What did we do? And the heartbreaking part is they may not have done anything wrong at all. Sometimes adults distance themselves because of conflict with another adult, not because of the kids. If that's the case, though, those kids are the ones constantly paying the price because their mother thinks she's bigger than the program. And one example that always comes to mind is when DSS removed her kids, they were placed with Heyward and his then girlfriend, Jessica. Jessica seems to be the only woman that was in Heyward's life that truly tried to have some type of connection with those kids and help them. But on this particular day, it was their son's HJ birthday, the son of Colossal and Heyward, and they took him and, the rest of the kids out to eat. Colossal was so upset that they did not invite her, y'all. It didn't make no sense. And I'm still like, girl, why were you surprised? The kids weren't in your custody. Why would they invite you anywhere when you're the reason that the kids were even with the DSS in the first place? And secondly, if you were so upset about that, when you got your kids back, you could have celebrated them, but you don't. You never do. You don't even tell them kids it's their birthday. You don't tell them it's Christmas, Thanksgiving, a special holiday or nothing, because you want it to just be another day to them, because you don't celebrate them and you don't celebrate holidays with them. Well, let me say this. When you do decide to celebrate holidays, another person or an organization has to provide absolutely everything centered around that holiday for your kids, because you're not going to do nothing, but you're going to always take credit for it. And with that being said, as this video comes to a close, I would like to reiterate that you are allowed to comment, even if you don't necessarily agree with me. Just remain respectful. And thank you so very much for giving me an opportunity to share my opinion about this parasite, Colossal, and the walking bacterial infection, Heyward. Until next time, remember, Laesaidit.